to episode 53 of Broad Street Hustle. It's our special Kentucky Derby preview show. Was a fan favorite last year. That the horse that won, we didn't even discuss because he was on the also eligible list and he was not even mentioned on the show and he won. So hopefully a little bit better this year. Episode 53. We're going to touch on the Sixers to start the show briefly. How can we not talk about them? But then we're going to get right into the Derby. We're going to handicap the Kentucky Oaks, lead into the pick four of the Derby that ends obviously with the Derby. So let's go through who we got on the show. We got Jason Seata, the normal
Hey
host.
Tom, how are you?
Hello, Jason. We have Jimmy the Chalk.
Happy Thurby, everybody.
That's true, yeah. And then, of course, it's horses, so we have to have our special guest. And I said the Derby show was a fan favorite. Well, here is a fan favorite among our guests, Jimmy D.
Thank you, guys. It's great to be back as always with you guys. And one of my favorite podcasts on the air is the Broad Street Hustle. Very informative. I listen every week, even when I'm not on.
And unfortunately, Christopher Michael Meeker could not join us as he has said in his own words he doesn't know anything about horse racing. However, that hasn't stopped him with all the other podcasts, baseball, football, basketball. But for some reason with the Derby, he kind of sits out. So we do not have Meeker. He'll be back next week when we cover our normal topics. But let's jump right into it because we have a lot to cover here. Let's talk Sixers. Last night was game 2, which was in Doc's words throughout the season, a scheduled loss in my opinion. But Jimmy, Jason, do you want to touch on the Sixers after the first 2 games in Boston? And what do you think for the rest of the series?
Yeah, listen, if you asked me before the series if I would take coming back home here with a split, I'd be sign me up. I would say, especially with Embiid missing the game he won. So, but game 1 was the Harden game. Harden was incredible. He was unbelievable, but in doing so, he played 39 minutes. So I was convinced that he was going to bounce. As you know, if we're talking horses, we'll talk bounce. He was going to bounce last night, and before I heard Embiid was playing, I had the crazy thought in my mind that they might just come up with some kind of phantom injury for Harden.
I swear to God, I was just going to say if the Sixers had any balls, they would have sat Harden for game 2 and played him off the layoff for game 3.
If you think during the season, like he hardly ever has a big game and then follows it up with a big
game. There was a stat, and I wish I wrote it down. His best playoff performances have all come off of like 8 or 7+ day layoffs in the past. So even when he was a younger player, I think it was still something that he, rest does good for him.
Listen, the guy's not in the greatest shape, and he was able to get away with it 5-10 years ago. Not able to get away with it anymore. But, listen, that's Harden is what he is. He comes up with a big game every so often. So, and then speaking of Embiid, at first I wasn't crazy about them playing him last night, but then in seeing him play, the guy was rusty, and the guy is kind of, his stamina is not there right now. And, hey, listen, I'd rather see him play like he played last night. Not that he was terrible, but I'd rather see him do that in a game that they really probably didn't even plan on winning than doing it in game 3 where they kind of have to win. You know what I mean? So, like, get the rust off, get some of your stamina back, and I was okay with it. And he was phenomenal defensively. Brown was trying to break him down, and Embiid wasn't having it. His legs were there defensively. Offensively, he was kind of, he wasn't there offensively. Rebounding, he kind of wasn't there. So, hopefully, like I said, knock some rust off and he gets back into the flow. And obviously, they're going to need him tomorrow and Sunday. So, the other thing I'll throw in is I'm not crazy of the way Maxey has looked in this series. Even in game 1, he's been off. And that's gotta correct itself like quickly if they're gonna win the series. Like he's driving, he's able to score that way, but his shot's off right now, and they need him. So
and Chalky alluded to many podcasts like, hey, Maxey doesn't shoot enough at times, and they had to urge him to take shots. And we're never going to complain when he shoots.
No.
Well, I'm complaining he's shooting way too much now. And it's the shot selection. There was a possession yesterday where he got the ball. I guess it was like off a turnover. He stopped and shot. Nobody's underneath.
Yeah, I remember it.
And then they got the rebound somehow because it bounced back to – and they passed it right back to him. And he shot again with nobody underneath.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, yeah, he makes that shot. You're not talking about it, but he didn't make either one of those shots. It was early in the 24. There was no chance of a rebound.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's just like he's becoming a little bit of a chucker.
If he's on, then we're like Jimmy said, Chalky said, we're happy with him shooting, but he's not on right now, and hopefully that gets correct. Maybe he doesn't play well against Boston. Maybe he doesn't see the rim right at Boston at TD Garden or something. I don't know. And hopefully
there was a loose ball too where he didn't even
jump
go
on the floor.
Yep. And it
not
turned into a Marcus Smart. Was it at the end of the – it might have been at the end of the half, right? It turned into Smart hitting the three, and they went down, what?
I think it's first quarter, yeah.
Well, end of the first quarter, right. They went down 6 instead of 3 to end the quarter. Or maybe better because they could have got the ball down. Yeah, and it was like, that was just a little suspicious to me as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, those are some of my thoughts.
Yeah, how about you, Chalky?
I mean, look, you wanted to split. You got the split. If you would have told me Embiid was going to play one and not play one, I would have thought the scores or the scenarios would have flip-flopped to be the game that he did play. That it was the grinded-out win. But I still think it's a 7-game series, which at a healthy Embiid, I thought it was a 7-game series. I think you're looking at it, 7-game series still. And I think you're really, till Embiid gets right, which he's probably not going to be right this series, you're going to have to look for one of these other players to step up each game. And last night, you didn't really have that. Game 1, you had Harden carried a lot of load. And, Maxey put up 26, and Harris wasn't maybe consistent, but he shot 50%, put up 18, and played 42 minutes. So he was good in spurts. And I said it last week, but Maxey's been had those great, if he was a 6-man off the bench, spurts 10 minutes, puts in 12, 14 points, but he hasn't been consistent throughout the games. And where he's been off, like Jason said, was his long distance shooting. Now, you can certainly say that he should be a little more selective, in terms of just throwing it up there if there's nobody for a rebound or whatever. But because of his hesitations in the past, I really wouldn't. I mean, if I'm the coach, I wouldn't be discouraging him to shoot that because I think he's got to shoot his way out of it. And I know in the past they said, the length of their defenders has been an issue for him because they got a lot of different guys they can throw out there. But he's had some success getting to the rim. Maybe he needs to do that a little more off the start and then work his way into shooting some threes. But, he was, a 40+% shooter this year, I think, so from three. So I don't want him not taking threes, but maybe be a little more selective or patient. If there's nobody underneath, if he can get to the hole as opposed to just chucking up a three, that might be the better option for those kind of things. PJ Tucker made a basket last night, or 2, I think, maybe, so that was good. But he's been that hustle, that little spark at times. And, this team is not going to lie down like they kind of did sometimes in playoffs past. I don't think that doesn't mean they're going to be good enough to win. And you don't want to say they shouldn't play without Embiid, but I mean they're 13-5 now without Embiid, and they beat some good teams at times. You're not going to win a 7-game series, but it's almost like they find a way. And I guess Rivers has kind of had a history of getting teams that are undermanned, but it's
get that talk out. That's nonsense.
Well, I'm not saying they shouldn't have Embiid, but I'm saying it's admirable that they can rally
like I'm
that.
talking
But
to one of these idiots I work with.
Well, yeah, I think in a regular season when other teams let down.
Come
and
on.
all,
yeah, I mean, and I think Boston's a team that didn't come out all fired up game 1, but
and the Sixers hustled in game 1. The
Yeah.
Sixers were diving for loose balls. They played like
Yeah.
a desperate team, and Boston played like the desperate team in game 2.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is, it's going to be a series. If it goes 7 games, it's going to be about who makes the better adjustments. And in game 1, the Sixers got torched in the paint in the first half. They made adjustments, and Boston couldn't react. Game 2, Embiid is the presence, 5 blocks. Boston started shooting more outside shots. They got hot, and the Sixers couldn't. They were 1 for 13 in the first half on threes. So adjustments made for both games. It's turned into winning, so we'll see what they have the rest of the series. And Doc may be overmatched at times, but Mazzulla is a rookie coach, and he hasn't been great at making adjustments this year, so I might give edge Doc there.
Jimmy D, we always enjoy your interpretation of these games.
Fellas, I've been listening to your comments about the Sixers for the last several weeks. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I will say this: if the Sixers, this is a watershed playoff series for them. If they don't win this second round series, things are going to change. And I think Doc's job will be on the line if they don't win this series. Something's got to give. You don't have players of two Hall of Famers on your team, and you can't get by the second round of a playoff. I think Doc's biggest problem is my nascent opinion. He don't understand the tempo of this game. When Embiid's in the game, it's an entirely different game for Harden and Maxey. Uh, you saw that very. It was exemplified in the first two games of the Boston series. And Boston did come out flat, but the Sixers were hungry, and they played hungry and quick. They were after every loose ball. They were diving all over the floor. And when Joel Embiid's in the game slows down. He's obviously the MVP. He's a marvelous player, and they're better with Joel Embiid. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But it's a different game, and sometimes that game does not fit well for Maxey or Harris or Harden. Harden was bragging about, well, he can transition from one player to the other. I don't know about that. You know, um, his legs seem to go when he doesn't have that proper rest, as you guys alluded to. He doesn't. He's just not effective in the second half. He can't drive. He doesn't get those baskets to fall. He shoots ridiculous percentages, and it hurts them. But if you watch that game last night, Embiid was the killer in the third quarter. He just lost his legs, man. He couldn't hit a shot. His defense, which was spectacular in the first half, was not all of that in the second half. And when Boston started to get red hot in the end of the third quarter, he was gone. He was forcing shots. There was one layup that he tried to make. I don't know what the hell he was
That
thinking.
alley oop
He
or
should have
something.
dunked the ball. He should have just
Yeah.
put it in somebody's face out of frustration. And he didn't. And it was no basket. And Boston come a running and makes the basket down the other end. I think it's sometimes, Doc, I guess it's hard to figure out what kind of team is going to show up on any given night. With all of that said, I really believed at the start of this series. I wanted to bet this series so bad, and they made it an unbettable series because of the injury. But I really think this is a watershed series for the Sixers. They must win this series. Um, and if they don't, there's going to be a problem. There's got to be shakeups. I know it's a nightmare matchup when you're putting, Tobias Harris on Tatum or you're putting Maxey on Brown. That's a nightmare. But Boston with having Brogdon coming off the bench at sixth man of the year, they're tough. White's tough. Smart's tough. We don't have that kind of depth. And if we don't get a little bit of contribution from our bench, it's going to be difficult. Even though I think there's something in the stars, just something going around that the Sixers, and like Chalky said, maybe go to 7 and maybe just win the series and steal it.
Yeah, I mean, geez, Boston is there more of a collection of guys that you just want to punch in the face when you watch them too. Geez,
That's smart, man.
I mean, come on, that like you, Jason and Chalky alluded to. I mean, you tell us they split in Boston, you're jumping up for joy. So you know, everybody's up in arms because how it happened. Like Chalky said, they win game one, they get embarrassing. Who cares? That was a loss
They
before the
weren't
game
winning that
even
game.
started.
Yeah.
There were stats TNT put up where the home team that loses game one has won the last 14 game twos. Now it's 15. Tonight we'll see if it happens with the Warriors and the Lakers, which I'm sure it will. They were still an 8.5 point underdog with Embiid playing. They had no chance to win that game. No chance. That's why, like I said, they should have sat hard. They would have never did it. But I mean, I was against playing Embiid, but I think after watching the game, it was a good idea because, like Jason said, he played a little bit in shape, and they played like a team where Embiid hasn't played in 13 days. They didn't know what it looked like they didn't know what Embiid was capable to do. Was he able to post up? Was he able to move like that? They didn't know when to give him the ball down low, and it was like clunky on offense. I mean, they didn't score many points, obviously, um, but like Jason said, the his ability to move lateral on defense. I mean, there was the Brown. He was you know face to face with Brown. Brown ain't dunking over him. But there was the block on Tatum. He had to shuffle his feet to get over to make that block, and he did. So he's capable to move. He's got the brace on his knee. He's learning how to play with that. He's trying to get back in shape. Harden didn't know when to pass to him, when to take the shot. In hindsight, I think it was a good. As long as he comes back, it's not swell and it doesn't slow. Which I think there was a positive report from Doc earlier today. So it sounds like it's systems go. So definitely a good move to play Embiid. I still think they're winning the series. I mean, those first two games, if anything, were positive. They split. That's exactly what we wanted. Now they come back home. They're a 1.5 point underdog. I think when it opened, I don't know if it still is, which I was a little bit surprised at.
Yeah, it's a little scary.
Yeah, it's a little scary, but they're also coming off a 32 point loss. So I you kind of have to understand it a little bit. But yeah, I'm just as positive as I was coming into the playoffs. And hey, my Lakers Sixers championship matchup is still alive. That's all I got to say.
2 points now.
Yeah, Boston's up to
Is it
2
two?
points favorite now.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly think not that they can't win the series if they lose tomorrow night, but I think tomorrow night's going to be the linchpin because it's going to be their first home game. And Embiid's going to get his trophy. Everybody's going to be fired up. If they come out flat and get beat and it's not close, I think it's going to take a lot of air out of the sails of the team.
Yeah.
So even if you don't win, but it's a
win.
close game, that's the kind of night you want to win, and the momentum should be kind of in your favor. So if they don't have a good night tomorrow night, maybe it doesn't quite get to 7. But to what you were saying, I mean, all the guys said after game 1, they were like, we practiced for however long with Adam Embiid. So like we pretty much knew he wasn't going to play. So they were ready for that. They practiced all year with him, but they hadn't prepped specifically for the series with him really before last night. So hopefully there's a little bit of time to run some different things. And again, they're not going to shoot 1 for 13 from 3
Yeah,
again.
I mean, Marcus Smart was chucking balls up in there going in.
Yeah.
Like even Boston shots were everything was dropping for him. So
For me, it's I think they're splitting here. I think Game 5 is the game for the series. I think.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
a game they're going to be a 7.5 point underdog,
I
6.5
think
point
whoever
underdog
wins
again.
well, I mean, listen, I don't see any chance of them winning both of these games. I just don't. I think they're splitting, and I think they got to win Game 5 because you don't want to go down 3-2 because then you're probably
Yeah, you're
That's
in
tough.
a lot of trouble. Yeah.
so.
I mean, the big stat is, as far as I know, James Harden is 1-0 in games he played after being in Vegas. So I have a couple American miles
There you go.
extra that I can send his way. If we need to fly him out the Flamingo every week, every other night,
you know-
I'm all for it. But
The only thing I'll say is, can't you just see Doc being up 3-1 going into Boston, and that all the talk being, oh, Doc has the most 3-1 losses as a head coach, and this and that. I don't know. You know me. I think everything is a
it's
sports
not. It's.
conspiracy.
I mean, look, you want to talk about? I mean, it's not the old guard anymore. But the Sixers have blown 3-1 leads to the Celtics in the past, and
Yo, I just want to understand. Maybe why did Tatum was allowed to push the referee and nothing
I
happened
didn't
with it?
see it.
I thought I saw what you said. I don't know if
he did it. I went and rewound it. He literally pushed the guy, the ref.
Yeah, I mean, I think
don't
I'm talking about. I looked like he thought maybe it was a Sixers guy at first or something.
So what?
I don't know.
Isn't
but
it an automatic suspension when you touch a referee?
Yeah, it should be.
depends who you are.
And by the way, if you guys think this Celtics team was a team that you would hate, and Jimmy D, I'm sure you could, confirm that '80 Celtics team was the most hated. They're
Yeah,
the
from
most
what I've heard,
hated
yeah.
team of any team in all my life of watching sports. Between Bird and Ainge and ML Carr and Cornbread Maxwell and Bill Walton. Oh my God, Jim.
I
Yeah, right.
absolutely agree with you, Jace. But I'm old enough to hate another team with Havlicek,
See,
Russell.
I'm not that old.
Believe me,
That's-
they were hateable for a long time.
Yeah.
That's when Jimmy Naismith was the commissioner.
Yeah, they used a leather ball back then.
Yeah.
Didn't
Yeah,
bounce.
Bas- peach baskets with the hole.
basket, yeah.
The half
No,
the
but
season was
really,
played by the
that
women.
Bird
The men
team,
were off
Jason-
at war.
That Bird team was very hateful, and
my
we
God.
lost some heartbreakers to them, man. And
Yes.
it was when we had the talent to beat them, and that was the problem.
Yeah.
And it's just for some reason New England just breeds that hate, whether it's the Patriots, the Celtics, or the Red Sox?
Bruins. It was
Red
nice.
Sox.
I think
Bruins.
Jason needed the Bruins, but it was nice to see the Bruins get knocked out.
Yeah, that did. I had a nice parlay that they killed.
That was
400 to 1 parlay.
the Rom parlay, right? Was
The
that
Rom
mixed in with
parlay,
Rom? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I thought
yeah.
I remembered that.
They destroyed it, but
All right, we ready to move on to the horses?
yeah,
I think
I'm
we're ready, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. So we did say in the opening we're gonna. I think I said maybe I may have not said. I don't know. We're gonna cover the Kentucky Oaks first, which is Friday, 5:51 Eastern Standard Time. Now I did see some tweets around wet weather possibly.
I've been following it. They originally said wet, but the last I looked, it was not.
Yeah, I
either
saw on the
day.
weather app nothing, but I saw that that weather guy
He
was saying
said
stuff.
something, but
Yeah, so
you know, like they say, and I'm sure it looks like Chalky's looking it up. But Louisville, they say like the weather changes. Like you basically have to look like the day before.
It's
They
true,
also-
Jace. We were out there. That's very true. It's very changeable, that weather.
Did
they
you go
also
to a
allow
derby, Jim?
their 10-year-olds to work till 2:00 in the morning at McDonald's.
Jim, were you at a derby? Jimmy D?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
derby
We were
were
out
you
there. We were out there for California Chrome back in
Oh, wow.
14.
Okay.
And just for a heads up, guys, we're going next year. It's a special day for my wife, so consequently, we'll be at the Derby for that particular day. So if anybody's interested, jump on.
I've been tossing it around, so I don't know if you guys.
I mean, some of us need a couple years in advance now, apparently, to get ready for the Derby, but we can get working on it.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm not
I
seeing
got
a
you
strong.
covered, Jimmy. Jim, teach warmer sports. We got it covered. Very easy.
I'm not seeing a strong chance of rain tomorrow at Louisville right now, so maybe that's hopefully not shifting the
Yeah,
Derby.
I
day,
don't
About
but-
think so.
Saturday. About Saturday.
Nah, less than 10% chance at any time. All
Yeah,
day,
I
it's
just
saying right now.
this tweet I saw was this morning. So
I saw the same thing you did.
Yeah.
And I'm making sure it's Louisville, Kentucky. I'm looking at. Yes.
No, it definitely was,
Um,
and that, like I said, I checked about
It-
an hour or so.
You're
ago.
right.
Yeah.
It was. What they did, Ray Pollock said something about 53% chance of rain. It got everybody crazy. It's not. It's less than 10%. I don't think you're going to.
But I swear there's Derby days where it just has popped up in rain when it wasn't supposed to happen. So
Does.
you never know.
yeah, there was definitely one I remember. All right, let's jump into the Oaks. I don't know. Does somebody want to volunteer to start the Kentucky Oaks? Does anybody have a strong opinion in this race? I did not. Chalky, you want to?
I mean, I'll say not a strong opinion. Obviously, the Cox has the two favorites here, I guess. 7 Wet Paint will be the deserving favorite. She comes from the back and she ends up winning by a lot, which normally for deep closers you don't see. So I mean, she's going to be my top choice, and that's why I'm the chalk. There's a couple other longer shots I'm going to mix in, especially with the doubles. I'm going to give the 5 a shot, Wonder Wheel. She hasn't gotten back to her 2-year-old form yet, but she won her first 2 races at Churchill, and she's beaten some of these horses before. At 12 to 1, if she's around that price, she's not going to be 4 to 1, so maybe a little bit of value there. A much longer shot, and I know Ray Handel doesn't really win anything outside of New York, but at 30 to 1, I'll mix Promise Her America in there a little bit. She'll be closer to the pace and might get first run. Again, Handel's, I mean, there's a reason she's 30 to 1 the morning line, but she's a little bit of a longer price I'll mix in. And then the other one I was going to use was the 14, Pretty Mischievous, for Wall. She got beat by Southlawn last time out, but I'll give her one more try here. So the favorite would be the top choice, but mixing in some of the other longer prices as opposed to going with second, third, or fourth choice there.
I'll dovetail that, Tommy, if I can.
Go ahead. I
Of
was
course,
going to call
agree
you.
with Jimmy. I agree with him, and I'll tell you, Jim, I feel pretty strong. They're calling you chalky, but you know what? I think it's the best chalk of the weekend, Wet Paint. I would single this everywhere I possibly can. I would make the Oaks double, a 7 all, just in case there's another crazy horse that wins the Derby. But I think Wet Paint is clearly superior in this race. Wonder Wheel is way off her game. Nothing like the form that she showed last year. Cassie is trying to hide that, and I don't see where he can. This was his main horse, and this horse did not come back with any kind of interest. And that Ashland, which was her last race. She was just flat in that race, and there was no reason at 150 to 1 to run the way she did. Wet Paint has won 4 in a row. It's my, I've told you guys about Flavian Pratt. I think he's the best there is. I do. He's got the softest hands. I think Wet Paint is the best bet of the weekend. And why not start a Derby weekend with the best bet winner? And you're going into the next day with your Derby double.
Jason.
Yeah, actually, my top pick here is going to be the 4 South Lawn, and I really like the way she's exploded as a 3-year-old. If you look at her buyers, she really jumped up as a 3-year-old. She was coming off a couple of turf races. Um, it seems like she really kind of found herself as a 3-year-old. So I mean, my only issue with her is that she has not run well at Churchill Downs, but again, that was as a 2-year-old. So maybe, like I said, maybe it was just that she wasn't mature at that point or whatever. So I'm going to use the 4 as my top pick. So she'll be an A. I'm also going to use the 14, Pretty Mischievous, as an A. South Lawn ran her down in the last race. She's a pretty good horse, though. I don't like her post, but she has proven that she likes Churchill Downs. So I think she's got a big shot to kind of turn the tables on South Lawn. I'm definitely going to use Wet Paint as a B. You can't deny that the horse just might be. I mean, she hasn't run fast, but she runs these horses down pretty impressively. I can't toss her. But again, I'm going to try to beat her with the 4 and 14, and then I'm also going to use as a C, Botanical, the 6. She has been doing it on artificial turf. I don't know if she could run on dirt or not, but she's been running pretty fast on the synthetic. So if she can run on, I've been hearing that a lot of horses that are synthetic specialists actually like Churchill Downs dirt. So if that's the case, then maybe she might be the best horse with those numbers. So I'm going to throw her in. So A's are 4 and 14, B is 7, and C is 6.
All right, and I'm closer to Jason on my pick. So I actually had 2 A's here, where the 4 South Lawn for, when I look for these filly horses, I look for the ones that didn't show their best running as 2-year-olds, because now with Lasix not being used in these races, it really has affected the fillies. I feel like more than the males. And the ones that have come back after a good 2-year-old campaign have not has not improved as 3-year-olds. And to me, that's Wonder Wheel, and that would be one reason why I wouldn't use the horse. But South Lawn was one that came back and has improved. So definitely South Lawn. Jason kind of said it. Botanical is the other A for me, the other Cox, because think about it. Cox has a horse in Wet Paint that's going to be the favorite that needs pace. There isn't a ton of pace in this race. So for sure Botanical is going to go. We've seen it many times. These jockeys see a horse go, oh, God, they're going too fast. Everybody backs up, and Botanical I could see just not coming back to the field. Now, again, maybe she doesn't like the dirt. She is synthetic, and that could obviously play a part in it. But I'm going to take the shot for what Jason said, that these synthetic horses tend to run decent enough at Churchill's dirt. Horse is going to clear and just go. So Botanical, I want to not use Wet Paint, but I just can't. I mean, the argument I'll throw. You guys all argued for Wet Paint, so I'll give you some arguments against. Now that is a horse that, as a 3-year-old, has improved and looks great, but Wet Paint going into the last race, her best races have all been on wet surfaces, right? She's exploded on the wet. Okay, fine. So now she comes back in the Oaklawn race and she runs another top race on the dirt. Well, if there was ever a race that's set up for a closer, it was that one. The pace on that race was ridiculous. No horse close to the lead even finished somewhat close. And Wet Paint was the best horse going into the race, got the perfect setup and cleared through all those horses. So, and again, you could say, well, maybe she likes wet, and then she got the perfect setup. She's going to have to go through 12 horses, 13 horses, whatever it is, coming from way off, probably last, if anything. Not an easy task. So at the odds that I think she's going to be, which is less than 5-2, I will definitely take a shot to beat her. And similar to Chalky, I think that Promisher America as a bomb has a shot. I think to probably not win, but I like her last race. Handle has he wins stakes races in New York. Outside in New York hasn't yet, but maybe he hasn't really had the crop to do it. So it's a horse I'll definitely play around in the mix there. So I'm 4 and 6 as my A's. Wet Pain I'm not going to totally toss like Jason said. And a little bit of Promisher America. Um, no real argument against pretty mischievous, but the 14 post, it's going to be tough to overcome. She's not going to get on the lead. Can she even get into a nice start? It's going to be tough. So another horse I'll try to take a shot against. All right. Ready to move to Saturday. All right, let's
Yeah,
do it.
let's do
We
it.
are going to do the pick four. So just to lay it out for you, the pick four starts with race 9 at 3:40, ends with the Derby. So we're going to, in previous shows, we kind of go through the races. Each person may give out a pick four at the end. What we're going to do is go through the 3 races that lead into the Derby, come up with some horses. We're going to go to the Derby. We're going to ultimately give our picks for the Derby, but we're going to go through each horse and kind of give like a brief synopsis, yay or nay. But we're also, as a show, as Broad Street Hustle, we're gonna put together a pick four for all of us, and not just one pick, not just each person do an individual pick four. We're gonna put all our horses together that we're gonna discuss, and you're gonna hear us kind of work out how we come up with a ticket. We haven't talked about it before the show, so we don't know who each other likes. We're gonna have to figure out a way to if somebody really likes the horse and no 3 of us hate the horse, we gotta get rid of it. So should be fun. Hopefully it's not a total disaster. We shall see how it goes.
Probably a
Um,
disaster.
it's probably going to be a disaster. Hey, and argue for your horse. If you think the horse has to stay, we stay. And remember, we don't necessarily have a budget, but let's be a little mindful of the budget.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be a $300 ticket.
Uh, all right. Well, let's start race 9. We'll stick to how we just did it again, and then that'll get us all through the next. So, Chalk, you start us off. Race 9 is American Turf, Grade 2. Now, I will say, last year the Churchill Turf was an absolute disaster. You couldn't be inside. You had to be 10 wide. It was like chaos. So, no idea if it's going to play like that again, but just a small disclaimer. So, Chalky.
So, I mean, this is a spread race for me, which means that, either Carl Spackler or Major Dude wins easily. But the 2 Pletchers up front obviously have to be looked at. Far Bridge was interesting. That's a private purchase that moved from Clement to Pletcher. Apparently, this LSU Stables has been doing that over the last couple of years. They're making private purchases and moving horses to Pletcher. I don't know what success they've had, but I did pick up on that. But yeah, Ortiz, Rosario. I think you have to look at Talk of the Nation, McGahee the 4. As a B, even Johannes. I mean, Yakteen shipping, but the horse has had some good form out in California. I'm torn on Mo Stash. I probably would have as a C, but wouldn't argue if somebody didn't want to include it. But as a pace presence there, and then there's Carl Spackler, who could end up being a monster. So that's a lot of possibles there. We're not going to AB, but that would be 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, 11 in this one.
All right. Jimmy D.
I like Carl Spackler. I think that horse is rounding into form. Brown's got him just where he wants him. He's sitting on a big race for Saturday afternoon. He's coming right back. He's not going to look back. He's going to have front speed. He'll be on the pace. I really like that horse. I think that horse should dominate this field. This field is kind of a weak field. 2 of the Pletchers that are big favorites in this race should be eaten up in the inside. They should have a lot of problems getting out of that gate, and they should have a lot of difficulty getting to where they want to be in that race. So that's going to eliminate the other, the most potential competition in that race, and it should leave Spackler with a clear ride home. I won't complicate it. I like 11. I throw Mendleton's March in. Another horse, McPeak, always comes up with something big on Derby Day. And I love Brian Hernandez. So, and guys, I know you guys don't talk jockeys as much as I talk jockeys. But when you get into this Derby Day, these races are the Derby's ridiculous with 20, but these have 13, 14, 11, 12. These are jockey races, man. These are not your normal races, and the jocks are playing a big part in this. Throw them out, and you're throwing your horse out. I just think you need somebody that can guide, somebody that's familiar with the track. That Henderson has all those qualifications. Hernandez has all those qualifications. The other horse I talk a little bit about would be Talk of the Nation. He's won his last two. Gafaglio and McKay, another good combination. Another combination that comes with big quality, and he's off a quality road. This Talk of the Nation out of quality road as a sire. So I'd give you an 11 with the 3 and a 4 as a backup.
All right, Jason.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty tough race. Now, I originally thought that there's four horses that can win, and that would be the 1 Major Dude, the 2 Far Bridge, the 4 Talk of Nation, and the 11 Carl Spackler. I'm going to narrow it down to 2 horses, and I'm probably on my own going to narrow it down to 1 horse. And that 1 horse is Carl Spackler, the 11. I watched a replay of the race where Far Bridge barely ran him down. Carl Spackler did all the work in that race. He kind of, he duked it out with a pretty good horse, the horse that was the favorite in the race. Forget the name. But he did all the dirty work, and Far Bridge had a great trip, and still barely, you couldn't tell at the wire who won the race. And now Brown, and you look at Thorograph, the 11 has now paired 6s, and there's only 2 races, so he's due to make a big jump there. Now Brown putting him in a Grade 2 race in his 3rd start. I'm going to give you 2 horses here, but probably on my own tickets, I'm going to heavily use Carl Spackler as a single. And the second horse I'm going to use is the 1 Major Dude. He paired 7s. He's got Irad, who Irad on turf, I'm a sucker for. He's been training pretty well, and I think he's got some talent on turf. So I'm gonna throw him in. Probably as a B. Maybe winds up being a C type horse because I really like Carl Spackler, the 11.
Yeah, what else can I really say? I was not strong on Spackler as you guys were. Obviously an A, but I was spread here, but it was a spread with the logical horses that you all gave. 1, 2, 4, 5. I also liked, and 11. The 5, the reason is the horse only ran against 3 other horses in that last race, so everybody's 15-1. I think as the morning line, people are going to dismiss. You're going to get closer to the 20 range. I think you're going to get a price on this horse. And it was an impressive race off of second off the layoff. Just has a little bit of a shot. So it's not a horse I'm saying that's going to win for sure, obviously. But at that price, I think is a definite use. The 1 and 2, I just can't throw out with Pletcher. The 4 for the reasons hit the turf and he's exploded on the turf. So maybe it's just a good horse. The Tampa turf is always a little quirky, so you never know. And then Spackler, obviously the 11, who just ran an insane race. But I will say again, you don't know if it's going to be inside, if it's going to be outside, if the turf's going to play fair. The 11 post could potentially be a bad, but you just don't know. So for me to hone in on a horse on this turf course is hard for me. And the other thing I'll say is Spackler, it was his first race, but at a mile and a 16th, kind of got tired and came up short, and Far Bridge ran him down. Then he cuts back to a mile, and he runs a completely different race. So could have just been the first race. Maybe there's distance limitations.
I just think he did all the. If you watch the replay of that race, he did all the dirty work in that race, and he literally could have won the race. It was a head bob. I'm
just saying, just devil's advocate there.
Yeah.
So it's a race where if you're not going to single Spackler, then you might as well throw in all the logical horses, except for Mustache. I think we can all agree Mustache is a toss. We'll let that throw it out, right?
I did not have Mustache.
Okay. That was what we were trying to say earlier, right? Where 3 of the 4, I think the horse is going to go. So we'll figure it out. I wrote everybody's down. We'll talk it out with the rest of the ticket, of course. But let's move on here. Race 10, we have the The Churchill Downs. What's this called? Chalky, help me out here. It must be
Churchill
called
Downs.
something. Just
The
Churchill
Churchill,
Downs.
the
All right.
Churchill Down Stakes.
They changed them all right. The one horse is probably not going to win. That's all I'm going to say.
Not
No.
Um, so let's go race 10. We're at a 7 furlongs. Jimmy D, start us off.
Yeah, the Churchill Downs. That's very creative, that name. It took
yeah,
them
right.
years
Took
to
'em a
come up
while
with
to come
that.
up with that.
Yeah, really. But this should be the shortest conversation of the night, guys. I told you what I felt about in the Oaks, that I really like that wet paint as a huge favorite. But probably this 7, it happens to be coming out of the 7 also. I don't see how the conversation gets by Cody Wish. I don't see how it goes any further than Cody Wish. Uh, and if it does, it's a bad karma because I don't want to root against Cody's Wish. The story's incredible. The horse has been incredible. Mott's trained him up to this race. He's a 4 to 5 morning line. I hate chalks on big days, but I can't see anyone beating this horse on this particular day. One horse, one comment, and I'll stop right there.
All right. Jason.
Yeah, I mean, and he's not even going to be 4 to 5. He's going to be 1 to 5. He's 4 for 4 at Churchill Downs. He paired -2s.
Horse for a horse.
Yeah, he's got the pace advantage. Even if you look, like I don't see a ton of speed in the race, and he's going to be prominent. I don't know how he could lose. Now, endorsed always kills us. But I don't know at 7 furlongs if endorsed is going to do it to us this time. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to be more creative, but he's going to be 1 to 5. If White Barrio was in the race, he actually, when he cut back, he ran a big number, and I was thinking about throwing him in. He ran a -2 and his cut back to 7 furlongs, but
Safi Joseph from Lasix to Lasix off is like 0 for 90.
is he okay?
He's obviously
Really?
because he just straight up cheats.
Yeah,
So
something's going
I mean,
on.
it's obvious. So
Yeah,
that would have
but-
been a money burner for me. But
Could be. So obviously we don't have to make that decision. So yeah, it's the 7.
I'll spare the audience time and expense. I already turned the page to race 11. It's Cody Wish. Chalky.
Yeah, the biggest disappointment in the one scratching is that I think he would have burned a lot of money and would have had no chance to win because Joseph doesn't really win outside of Florida. So I may not be able to run anywhere outside of Florida for the near future, it sounds like.
We run a park.
Well, yeah, that's true. That they're not going to ban him.
Do we have a pick? Is there a pick mixed in?
Yeah, it's 7.
All right. Let's go to race 11. We got the Turf Classic Grade 1 set to go off at 5:27 Eastern Standard Time. Jason, we haven't started with you yet, so we will.
So for me, this is an absolutely impossible race. So basically, what I did was I started by tossing horses that I don't think can win. So I'm against the 1, 2, and 3, and I'm also against the 6. So that would mean I have 6 horses that I'm going to use. The 4, Steady On. It's Pletcher and Jose. All of his turf races have been pretty good. So I think the horse has got to be used. The 5, Up to the Mask. Up to the Mark, not Mask. Pletcher and Irad. And again, once this horse, went to turf, he exploded. So got to use. The 8, Santine, likes Churchill down turf. Won the race last year at 7 to 1. Not quite in the same form he was last year, but again, like it's a spread race for me, so I'm going to use him. The 9, Spooky Channel. He's 8 years old, but he's in really good form. Going to throw him in. The 10, Bye Bye Melvin. He's going to be forward. There is some speed in the race, but he's got some class coming out of a couple of grade 1s. This is not the greatest field in the world, so I'm gonna throw him in. So 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, so for me, this is similar to what Jason, minus 2 of his horses. And I mean, I like the 5, 7, and 8. I like the 5 probably the best, Up the Mark. Horse went to turf and really took to it. Almost pulled off another win in the not almost, but ran well against 2 Modern Games and a horse that just exploded against Modern Games at Keeneland. Irad sticks with the 5 over the 4. You know, a lot of things. So I like the 5 the best. Hong Kong Harry has some good numbers. I mean, thoroughgraph wise, Hong Kong Harry just kind of leaps off the page. No real excuse in the race that he just lost. So
Well, I think we had him.
yeah,
That was the
Yeah.
that would
excuse.
and so that, but he's 2 for 3 at the distance and placed in the other race. And then Santine, who was an absolute dagger for me last year when Mira's Mission couldn't get past when they were about in the in the grandstand finishing. But 2 for 2 at Churchill, and like Jason said, I mean he nailed it. Not coming in the same form, but again, maybe the horse just takes to the turf again at Churchill. Really likes it. So 5, 7, 8 for me. Like I said, I like the 5 a little bit more, but not going to say let's single. Yeah, then the 10 is a speed horse. I didn't see it. And the 9, yeah, Jason Barkley, a fairgrounds horse, shipping to Churchill for a grade 1. Not for me. Let's go to Jimmy D.
Plenty of speed in the race. That's why I like Hong Kong Harry. For the audience, if you remember this, if a 7 wins on Saturday or Friday, Jimmy D gave him to you. This is another 7 horse, coincidentally. But I love Hong Kong Harry. Once again, he's got my guy on him, who I love, Flavian Pratt. Diamato preps this horse at a mile, and then he runs into a mile and an eighth or a mile and a 16th. It's been his formula since the horses started on the track. The money is a key to this horse. This horse gets heavily bet in every race that it's in. That just tells me that they're knowing something about this horse that we don't know. He should love 9 furlongs. He preps at 8, runs at 9. Pratt stays on this horse. That's another thing that I like about him. There's 2 Diamato horses in this race that Pratt could have opted for. He gets off at Earl's Rock. So I think he thinks Hong Kong Harry has the better chance. However, I think Earl's Rock could be right there too. If I was putting in an exact, I would include Earl's Rock in there, and then I would throw Pletcher and Irad in with up the mark. But I think Hong Kong Harry in this particular race, at this particular distance, should fare well. And I think it's another 7 horse that could be key to hitting this pick 4.
Yeah, a little show fact here. If you go back to June 19th, I know it's a big day in history. It's an even bigger day for me. Hong Kong Carry, that's my big score with the Hong Kong Carry over home screen over Tarantino trifecta. Paid like
nice.
1,300. So Hong Kong Harry has a little bit of close to my heart just for the.
1,300 was more than that, wasn't it?
Oh, I had 30 times.
Ah,
Yeah, that's
then it was
that's
more-
that's
more
I
than
have it once, and you can have it 30 times.
that's what it was. So I mean, I had it straight, so which is insane.
Like that.
And then Chalky finished us off here.
I have it as a spread race as well. I had 4, 5, 8, 9, 10. Didn't have the 7, but obviously I can't argue against playing it.
What didn't
so.
you like? What didn't you like?
I'm always wary of the California shippers coming in when they haven't run outside of California before, and I did fall short. Look up D'Amato's shipping stats, so I did not catch that. The one stat I did look up was the Pletcher turnaround turf graded stakes less than a month, because he doesn't always turn around quickly, and he's 24% win, 56% in the money with an average winning payoff of 783. So that's the 5, which is coming back in 3 weeks. It was just, I think it was more a matter of not loving that horse as the favorite. If that horse was 6-1 Hong Kong Harry, I would probably be much more willing to include it. But obviously, I think the consensus is to include, so I'm not going to argue.
All right, well, let's go to the Derby, where we are going to go horse by horse, and we'll start with Jason just in a row, and we'll just keep alternating. Now, in the absence of time, I'm not identifying any one particular person, but if you do not like the horse, if you have no strong opinion about the horse, just say I don't like the horse and move on. We don't need the father, the mother, the sister. Just move on. So I'll let
Hey
you
Tom,
guys-
can I just interject one comment for
Yes.
the app? I don't want to be too belaboring about anything, but everybody knows that the Derby has things like the roses are the flower, and the mint julep are the horse, are just the drink, and the song is My Old Kentucky Home. But what they don't know is they have a little poem out there every year. It's a little, not many people know this. And this year there was actually a tribute to Chalky.
Oh, wow.
I didn't think he knew this, and I was going to tell him, but I figured I'd surprise him. But it's simple. It's very simple. Mirror, mirror on the wall. I mean, come on, mirror, mirror on the wall. Why must I always moan and groan? I would have had last year's Derby exacta cold, but for an 81 shot with friggin' Sonny Leone. Yes, 20 horses ran the race. Oh, I'm sorry, 20 horses went to post with the Kentucky setting sun. Yes, 20 horses ran the race, and I got beat by the 21.
Yes.
I don't know. It seems to be all over the infield with that particular poem this
I
year.
think that
It's good.
cost us multiple thousands on the pick 5, I believe.
Pick,
And me
yeah.
personally, it cost like 1,000. Like
It's quite the lament. I gotta agree.
And like I said, we on the show last year, not the horse wasn't even mentioned. We didn't even get into the AEs, obvious for good reason. I mean, I guess,
Yeah.
but not that if the horse I would have still been a complete toss, but the fact that the name wasn't even uttered on the podcast
was never
last
even
year
mentioned.
is
plausible
Tom,
deniability for not picking.
Tom, the same thing goes. If anybody wants to name the 3 winners of the Triple Crown last year, I mean, we're horse players, and that doesn't roll off your tongue. Rich Strike. I mean, give me a break. Early voting, Mo Donegal. This is your Triple Crown 3 last year, and not many
yeah,
people can remember.
none of them. Well, Mo Donegal got hurt. Early voting was terrible, and Rich Strike hasn't run unless he ran in like in the lounge race, hasn't won a race since. So
He has not
Rich
won a
Strike
race.
is not.
Well,
probably will
and
not.
just as an aside for the audience, I know Rich Strike's agent, and he told me he will win on Friday in the Ali Shiva. Just keep that in mind.
yeah, well, he loves Churchill, right? Isn't that one?
Yeah.
That was one of the.
Yeah, he got dusted his last Churchill race too.
Oh, did he?
Against bad horses, but yeah.
Oh wow. All right. Well, let's kick it off. So it is. I said 5:37 was when race 11 goes off. Well, 6:57 is when the Kentucky Derby goes off. So you have about an hour in between and maybe more. But you get to watch NBC talk about which horse is the prettiest and who has the
Yeah.
best dress on. So always fun for an hour. Jason, first to kick us off. We got Brad Cox, #1 hit show.
Hit show. I think the Wood was a bad race. He's got a bad post, and I'm not interested. Is that quick
right.
enough?
Quick enough for you. I got hit the road, Jack. Don't come back. Jimmy D.
I agree, Lee. Leave it to me.
Chalky.
Nope.
All right, there we go. You guys are getting it. Number
There we
2.
go.
And this is what I'll be saying often. Brad Cox, verifying. We'll go to me here. Justifies have not traditionally got the distance so far early in the campaign. You had no excuse in the blue gray. Just not for me. Not for me. Jimmy D.
He'll break out of the gate. He'll break about 8th, 9th, or 10th, and he'll stay there.
Yeah, that's a mid-pack AE horse if I ever saw one. Chalky.
I mean, I think he's going to, if he breaks well, he's going to go because he's going to have no other option. So he could be close or on the pace, I think, because they're going to want to try to get ahead of the horses coming from the right. I agree with the justify distance limitations, so not on my tickets, but I think he's going to be part of the pace scenario.
Yeah, I just don't know if he's actually even fast. I mean, he was on the pace of races that were just didn't have a lot of pace on him.
I mean, I think he's going to get work to not get caught, and he might just get him out there. But
yeah, Jason.
Yeah, he had a perfect trip in the bluegrass and didn't win. So I mean, I don't like him, especially in the 2 post.
All right, and now let's move on to number 3, Larry Ravelli's 2 fills. Kind of one of the wise guy horses, I would say. Jimmy D.
Two Phils looks like a synthetic kind of horse, but sometimes the transformation from synthetic to the dirt works. He's been running fabulously. I don't know about this Jarrett Loveberry. I've never had success with him, but that's just me. In one of those races, going back to the Risen Star, he moved a little too soon. He could have won that race. At JR Stakes, though, was a weak race. He beat Major Dude, but I don't think, as I said earlier, I don't think much of Major Dude. I don't see this horse hitting the board.
All right, I think we need to get a hold of Jimmy D's horse account if he's betting races that Loveberry is or tracks that Loveberry is riding and that he hasn't had success. So I would like to see what tracks he's betting on. Chalky.
He's probably a C on my ticket right now. I don't, the synthetic, yes, but as Jason said, some of these horses that have run on synthetic have come back and run well at Churchill. No shame in losing that race to Angel of Empire. And the Jeff Ruby Stakes was a key race last year for the Derby, right? But in all seriousness, I certainly, the jockey gives me concern. And Ravelli is not a Triple Crown trainer, but he also doesn't show up just to show up. So he's a C right now, but he's almost becoming too much of a wise guy horse for me, to be honest.
Jason.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys said, he ran a huge number on synthetic. Did the horse improve? Is he just a late improving horse, or was it a synthetic situation? I'm using. He ran a fast race. Animal Kingdom came off of prep on synthetic. Rich Strike. I mean, obviously, Rich Strike is. We shouldn't even bring that horse up. But listen, I'm going to use him. I mean, listen, maybe he's just improving, and he ran a 101, which 101 I think is the fastest buyer that's out there. I'm using him.
Yeah. I mean, look, Rich Strike won last year. Obviously, the pace set up, but we make fun of Sonny Leone. But Sonny Leone also had a tremendous ride, weaving in and out of horses, dove onto the rail with Jared Loveberry or whatever. I don't even know if that's his first name. Loveberry going to have a ride like that? I don't see it. 2 years in a row, you get a jockey that should be working on a farm here in Ben Sal. No, not for me. It's not a horse I would use. Exploded on the synthetic. No, thank you. All right, so now I guess I start here. Keith DeSormo's confidence game with going with the unorthodox. Let's not race in March. Let's not race in April because we have enough points to go in the Derby, and we probably want to get a free trip there. So we want to make sure our horse doesn't get embarrassed leading up, or get hurt. So we got our free tickets. We're going to be happy to run in Derby. No chance. Who would that leave? Chalky.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't run again because DeSormo said the horse was just washed. The last race took too much out of him. He wouldn't have been ready. He's not going to get a mile and a quarter, so no.
He didn't run because the owners wanted a free trip to Churchill Downs. Jason.
Yeah, I'm not interested in the horse off the layoff, and he's going to be forward. I mean, he will be forward, but I see other speed. Definitely not the win. For the board, DeSormo's a little shady as a trainer. I don't know. I mean, I might throw him in at the way bottom of a try or super, but not to win for sure.
Jimmy D.
Horse hasn't run on fast track since January 21st in the LeCamp. That's not the way you train to win a Kentucky Derby race. You need a little foundation under you guys. And just to say this, and I don't want to be protracted. I know, Tommy, you want to get through this thing, and we will. But a good friend of mine sends me the Assault training schedule. Assault was one of the Triple Crown winners. Only going to go through real quick. I won't go through this whole Triple Crown series. But just an idea. April 5th, 3 furlongs. You work April 6th, 6 furlongs. April 9th, first start. He runs in a little overnight stakes. April 12th, 4 furlongs. April 14th, 3 furlongs. 15th, a mile. The 18th, a mile. 20th, a second start, the Wood Memorial. 23rd, 3 furlongs. The 3rd, he runs in the Derby trial on the 30th. What you do after that, he wins the Kentucky Derby on the 4th of May. I don't understand these horses nowadays. They got no foundation under them. They're bred for speed. They can't run long. They break down. It's a disgrace. This is the real deal horses that put something in them and can run and sustain their form, not only for 3, for 4 and 5.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Jimmy D is also not a fan of Kyle Schwarber leading off for the Phillies.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, all right.
Kyle Schwarber's he's got the same batting average that Todd Pletcher has in the Kentucky Derby, 2 for 62.
All right, Chalky, Tapit Trice. You get the first horse that actually probably has a shot.
Yeah, Tapit Trice, he's a solid B for me. the post and he's been inconsistent with his starts. Keeps me from making him a solid A at this point. But four in a row, and he some of the quote unquote experts are saying that the bluegrass was possibly the best prep or the fastest dirt prep, and he was able to win there running a little differently. If you don't think verifying as much, then he should have probably won by more. But he's definitely a B, and he'll be on my tickets.
Jason, I think I messed up the order, but Jason.
Yeah, I mean, for basically what Chalky said. I mean, it's not a great post for the horse, but he's a good consistent horse, and Saez and Pletcher could do worse than that. So I'm definitely going to use the horse to win.
Jimmy D.
Yeah, you holler about the five post, but the five post have 23% in the money. I kind of like the five post. I'm a big fan of Mandy Pope and Whisper Hill. I think this horse ran his best race of his lifetime in the Bluegrass. He got a 99 buyer in the race. He was limping in his stride as he ended the race, and when he galloped out, everybody's telling me he galloped out wonderfully, even though I don't know what the hell that means, galloping out wonderfully. But this horse like is coming in. It's it's a $1.3 million purchase. This is the real deal. This horse could win.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously with you guys. The horse, I love the bluegrass for him, where Saez made that big move, it got him into the race, and didn't flatten, just kept coming, lengthened the stride, just like Jimmy D said, and kept coming. One, definitely a son of Tappet, a wild man. These horses tend to do better at the Belmont. So are we seeing a Belmont horse opposed to the Derby winner, which is a strong possibility for the reasons that Chalky said, as the horse is a little wild. So one misstep could cost the race. So I see that more likely happening. But again, not a horse I cannot use. Tappet Trice definitely going to be on the ticket. All right, King Barnes.
But sorry, just interrupt. This is the most important thing. This is your death play because Hop de Grace, former Horse of the Year, died this week. She ran under the car dealer who had like hard spun all those. I can't think of his name now. But Mandy Pope bought her for like $1 billion as a broodmare, and she died this week. So
Porter.
that's your angle.
Rick Porter.
Rick Porter, yeah.
And wait, what's the Tappet Trice?
Mandy Pope is the main owner.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right, so Kingsbarn, which was a Broadsheet Hustle horse that was given out. We'll go to Jason for that horse.
Giving out for the Louisiana Derby. He's not going to be giving out for the Kentucky Derby. The horse obviously is talented, but off of three races, he'd have to be a super horse, and I don't think he is. The Louisiana Derby is not a great race. I'm not using.
All right, Jimmy D.
Not using him either. 3 starts is just not enough for you. I talked about Foundation. He doesn't have it. Big Brown did it. I understand. Justify did it. I understand. This horse just, it was a great podcast you guys gave that day. Everybody gave Kings Barnes. I don't see it in the Derby.
All right, and then we got Chalky.
Nothing new. Same opinion.
Yeah, for me, it's a not use. The horse had the easiest of trips. I mean, although we gave the horse out, still had an easy lead. Went away. 3 races, not enough Foundation. No, thank you. All right, let's go. Number 7, Jimmy D. Reincarnate.
Interesting horse. Very interesting horse. Tim Yaktine, he gets mocked a lot because he has, the also eligibles from Bafford's barn. This is horse. Reincarnate's tough. Johnny B's going to have him on the front. He's going to go to the lead. He may get an easier lead than most people think. This horse has got good speed if he wants it. He used it a little bit in the Arkansas Derby, and Angel of Empire, who's a horse I really like, came up and beat him. But I don't know. I think it's a leap that this horse actually gets 1.25 miles, and he's not going to lead the whole way. He's going to quit at some point in time.
Chalky.
I'm glad he's in the race because they'll make sure the pace is at least honest, but nothing on any of my tickets.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. He reminds me like of Messier, horses like that where you think will beat, and I wouldn't be surprised if this horse is not even on the lead, not even factor in the race, just an also ran at the end of the day. No, thank you, Jason. This is reincarnate the 7.
Yes, not for me.
All right, let's go to The 8 horse, Gustavo Delgado. Um, I believe they settled on the name Maj. I believe it
Mage.
was Mage. Okay. Mage. I got to be honest. I have lost track of the order. I'm going to go to Jimmy D.
It's not a big deal. I think people are getting excited that this horse had a decent race last time. Ford had to do, and here we go again. Ford had to do everything possible to beat this horse in the Florida Derby. That was impressive, but I just don't think he has the foundation either. This is his fourth start lifetime. I don't like that. I just don't like that. I know Castellano would love to win a Kentucky Derby. It would, put a accentuating mark on his Hall of Fame career. But I don't think it's going to happen with Delgado's horse.
Jimmy Chalky.
Yeah, fourth start. Horses had trouble at breaking for the last 2 starts. Talented, but not on Saturday.
Love the horse in the Fountain of Youth. Like the horse in the Florida Derby. Do not like the horse in the Kentucky Derby. Jason.
Yeah, I basically said see comments on King's Barnes for this horse. So.
Yeah. All right. So we have the number 9 Skinner, which is a John Sheriff's. We'll go to Chalky.
Pace is definitely going to set up for him, and his numbers have gotten progressively better, or certainly left up during his 3-year-old campaign. I wasn't big on practical moves, so the fact he didn't get by practical move in the San Diego Derby is a knock against him. He'll be in my tries. At best, he's a C as a win on a ticket right now, but I'll be thinking about it for sure.
Yeah, I'm similar. I don't totally hate the horse, but don't know if I would say the horse is going to win. Definitely a board type of horse will be coming. The only thing I'll say is the excuse was practical move was just a dream trip at the San Diego on the inside the whole way, came up the rail. So could be why the Skinner, who was a little bit wide, didn't close past, but not necessarily a win horse for me. Don't hate the horse. Wouldn't argue against if you guys want to use on the pick 4, but more of a board for me. Jason.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason that Espinoza got replaced on the horse is because of the trips he's been giving Skinner. I actually like the horse. Definitely like him for like key is a second or third horse in an exacta or trifecta. But now, I keep thinking now that there's going to be some speed to run into in the race. I can see him winning. I'm definitely using him on my tickets as a winner.
All right, Jimmy D.
I like Skinner also. He's not my top choice, but I certainly like him. And you're right. Espinoza doesn't know how to close with this horse. So consequently, he was replaced. And J.J. Hernandez is the best out there in the West. So
Yeah, he's
consequently, I don't want the fact that he ran 4 weeks ago. That's we're talking about foundation, but a little rest is nice. But I think he was compromised in his earlier starts in Santa Anita. There was speed favoring tracks. He's a closer. If he gets a solid pace, I think he'll be running at the end. Will he win? I don't know. It's the Derby. It's not the fastest horse. It's the best ride.
Yep. All right. The 11 disarm, which is I'm sorry. The 10 practical move is scratch, so that's why we're skipping over the 10. The 11 disarm. Steve Asmussen looking for his first Derby win. Not getting it with disarm. You're going to argue that he's a board horse. Probably has a shot for the board, of course, but I'm not a fan of this horse really at all, to be honest. Chalky.
I mean, there might be a dozen horses that can't win but could come in third or fourth. I'll probably use them in that, but no. They had to run them in Lexington to get the points to get into this race, so no.
Agreed. Jimmy D?
Ridiculous. I watch Asmussen. I know he wants to win a Derby. That's his home turf. He's done everything in horse racing, but you can't win with Curlin. You can't win with Epicenter. You can't win with Gunrunner. You're not going to win with Disarm.
Jason.
Yeah, it's certainly not the win, but he did pair fives, so he might be.
Yeah, fives are pretty high up there when it comes to a Derby horse.
It is, but I mean, if he pairs it and runs a 1, I mean, maybe.
Yeah, it's a pretty big
for the board.
lead.
I mean, listen, I'm never not using him to win, but like Chalky said, bottom of the try or super, I'll probably throw him in.
All right, and then we have our third runner from Brad Cox, the 12 horse Jace's Road. So we'll go with Jason because it almost sounds like Jason, I guess.
I do like the name. I am called Jace, so I think he's going to be a rabbit. Cox has got Giroux, who's obviously thrown away rides on Triple Crown horses before, just to set it up for other stable horses. I think
Fellow
he's gonna
Frenchman.
Be yeah. I'm talking about that Belmont Stakes where he was the fullback for Justify. That kind of cost us a lot of money, but yeah, I like the name and I don't like the horse.
All right, Jimmy D.
Jace, with all due respect, I know a girl named Jace. She gave me $2 to bet Jace's Road. I'm going to sit on the bet. I'll probably have to
Is
pay
her
her
name
100.
Jace?
Whoa, remember, this is a G-rated show. Where are we going with this?
She gave him $2. She didn't come down with $1.25 or whatever. $2.50.
She gave me $2 to donate to the church.
This is sister Jace.
Gotcha.
Yes, Sister Jace was there. But however, if this horse hits the board, I'll donate double to the church.
Yeah, I had a joke and it escaped my mind. Oh, I think I was going to say Jason, the host of Broad Street Hustle, has a better chance to win this race than
Probably.
Jace's Road. Talkie?
My joke would be that this horse has a better chance of hitting the tote board in the infield than the board of placing in the Derby. So no.
All right, the number 13, Sun Thunder, Kenny McPeak. We'll go to Jimmy D, who gave a little bit of love to Kenny McPeak, and see where he is with this
Yeah,
horse.
well, yeah, like love is fleeting, guys. You can love somebody on Tuesday and not on Wednesday. I love Hernandez also. I love McPeak. Sun Thunder has no shot.
Jason?
Not for me.
Chalky.
Nope.
No shot. All right, Brad Cox, the 14 Angel of Empire. So I think we're up to what, 4 Brad Cox runners? That's absolutely ridiculous.
I think they got 40% of the field. Cox
and
Fletcher and Asmussen.
Yeah. So I got a suspicion that Angel Empire will be on everybody's ticket. I did like the horse coming into, I would say 758 tonight. I don't like the horse as much since it was brought to my attention that everybody in the world likes this horse, as I haven't had a chance to listen to other podcasts, which makes me not like the horse as much. Obviously, I'm going to use horse made a very, very, very impressive middle move visually, which is wins these Derby races, which we always talk about. It's Pratt, Jimmy D talked about. So, all good things. If you go to Derby Strikes, one of the best horses there, paired twos, so you definitely see improvement there. I mean, it's just a logical winner. It's hard to say you don't like the horse. Obviously, I'm a little bit in jest about everybody liking, but it does factor in, and I do not see 8-1 on this horse for sure. Chalky?
That's quite the segue. He's my pick. He's my only A, like everybody else.
So I would like to recant what I just said. I absolutely hate the horse.
Yeah.
He won't be 8-1. I think he might actually end up second choice ahead of Tapper Trice. But I think the race will set up for him. I think that the 12 will be out there, partially same owner, to help set it up for it. And, he's got the style, and he's checks all the boxes, like you mentioned, on that strike system. And he's improving as a 3-year-old. So it's the horse I'm going with.
Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I like the horse, like similar to Tommy. I like the horse. I mean, he ran a race that wins the Derby. My problem is, who did he beat in the Arkansas Derby? I don't think he beat anyone. And the way everyone talks about this horse, you would think he's 8-5 and not 8-1. I guess I'm going to use defensively, but I don't like him now. I really don't. I mean, there's too many people that like this horse. You would think the horse was 8-5.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, but it's also not a great morning. But to play a little devil's advocate, we've done 60-70% of the field, and we've talked trash on almost every horse, pretty much. So, who has anybody really beat when you go through the list?
Yeah,
I mean, there's not like one race where you had 5 dominant horses. Every race in this Derby trial has had slop for the most part. Pletcher separated all his horses to not run against each other. So it's like when Cox and Pletcher has half of the field, you know, it's going to be hard to say who did they beat. I agree, but I'm just as a devil's advocate. Jimmy D.
Angel of Empire is a nice horse. It's funny, Tommy, you said it, and Jason and Chalky said it. I liked him too before I heard everybody jump on board. It's really an amazing
You
thing.
would think he was
And
8
I'm
to
a Pratt
5.
guy, as I've repeated over and over and over again. He was dominant in Arkansas, but that was a weak field. That King Russell and Reincarnate's a horse we're picking against. The horse is screaming distance. It
King
should
Russell
run really
is a maiden, right?
Yeah,
Coming
that's
off
exactly
a
right.
maiden
And
win. So
I like Classic Empire as a sire. Can this horse win? Yes. It's a Cox horse. Yes. It was a $70,000 purchase. I mean, Lord, this is why I got into owning a horse once in a while. Always hoping for that $70,000 purchase to win $1.7 million or $1.70 million. This guy's even going into the Derby. It's a wonderful purchase of a horse. Something just tells me he's not going to win.
I agree.
all right.
Stop it there. Jimmy D is going against a Pennsylvania bred. Brian Sanfratello's rolling over in his grave. He's not dead yet, but he will be.
And don't forget, Jim, he beat me up for the commissionership. Brian Sanfratello and the other idiot from the Parks, because I didn't give enough money. But nonetheless, that's another topic for another day.
All right, and let's go to our Derby favorite, the 15. Is it Forte?
It is Fort. I've been
Fort
told
is what
that
we're-
Fort is the correct
Fort.
pronunciation.
Fort. Don't really care for that, actually. I like Forte a little bit better, but fine. Let's go with Fort. Why didn't we just not use the E? But whatever. Let's go to Chalky.
I will call him Forte because I'm not changing at this point. This is almost the opposite of Angel of Empire because he's the morning line favorite, but it seems like everybody's getting off of him. But I think for valid reasons, he's not improving as a 3-year-old. And again, who's he beating as a 3-year-old? Nobody like Mage. We haven't gotten a Rocket Can yet. I don't think anybody's going to take Cyclone Mischief. And that last race, he was just grinding it out and took a really long time to get going. He won the race, but he was spinning his wheels for a long time. I don't think that wins this race. So his best win was the Breeders' Cup. None of those horses that were any good there are coming back here. So I can't say he won't be on a backup ticket, and you don't do that with the favorite, but I just don't like him in this race.
Jason?
Yeah, I'm going to be against him too. I mean, he really hasn't done anything wrong, but he's not really improving. And I heard someone say it, and I've heard a lot, so I don't remember who it was, but they said something about Pletcher horses where if they're coming into the Derby as clearly like, a great horse, that's when they win the Derby because his horses have not really shown improvement in the Derby. And I think this horse would have to improve on his numbers to win this Derby. So I'm probably not going to use him.
Jimmy D.
Tommy, I'm looking at the balloons behind you, and you told me earlier off the broadcast it was for your daughter's birthday. It's so similar how much we have in common, Tom, because you have balloons behind you, and I have horses. And if I turn the camera and leak it down, what you see there is the Woodford Bourbon and the Kentucky Mint Julep bourbons that are sitting by my side. So don't let me have anything to do with your daughter's next birthday party, okay? With that said, Fort, who, by the way, Jimmy, the chalk, Mike Rapoli calls him Forte, which he gave me in the hopeful, and I didn't bet him. But I don't think this horse is going to win. These horses that win that Breeders' Cup 2-year-old, juvenile, Nyquist, Street Sense, they're challenged when it comes to this to keep your form. And I think that Florida Derby, he did everything he had to do to win that race. That was a challenging race. Took a lot out of him. And he's coming back into the 15 post, similar situation, longer run to the turn, I understand. But you got to move in this. And I'm not so sure he's up to that standard. I don't like him. I just don't like him in this particular race. He's a blowout for me.
And I love Forte here. Fort here. I think he's the winner of the race. I'm not singling, of course, but I don't think he ran. His numbers improved from his 2-year-old season because I don't think they needed to improve from his 2-year-old season. The Fountain of Youth was a joke. I mean, the horse never really even tried and blew by his horses. The Florida Derby, everybody said this horse ain't winning. He's in the 11th post. You know how hard it is? They said that about Big Brown as well. But you know how hard it is to win in the 11th post? He went, wide a lot of the race, had to make a wide move, looked dead in the waters at the top of the stretch, even beyond, and put his head down and just went by Mage and never looked like a loser after once you saw he wasn't. So it's like now you're saying, oh, he all the reasons why you didn't like the horse, he overcame everything, and you still don't like the horse. Not you guys. I'm just saying in general. Uh, so I just think he hasn't had to run a fast race yet, and I think he's capable of running the fast race. You guys are saying Skinner is going to have a pace to run into. Well, I mean, Fort is the best off the pace horse in this field by a mile. In the Breeders' Cup, he was a horse that I don't know, and he wins that race. So Jimmy D, you mentioned two horses that won the Breeders' Cup, that won the Derby, right? In Street Sense and Nyquist. So I don't see why he wouldn't be the same. Obviously, you gotta get by 19 horses. Not the easiest thing to do. Well, probably not 19, but he's got to Irad's gonna have to find the holes and stuff. But I like Ford. I think he's the deserving favorite. I think he might get 3-1. I mean, the way this podcast is
I
going,
think
the
he
way
will.
from other things we
Yeah.
heard, I think you'll easily get it. And just like Nyquist, like that was a horse that I was totally against, but it's like it was a field that wasn't really great, and the horse was still in form and won at whatever it was 7-2, what I forget the price, but was the favorite, but it's still a decent price. So yeah, Ford is definitely on my tickets. All right, that's the 15, Todd Pletcher. We'll move to 16. Ben Colebrook, Raise Kane. And I will start it since I'm on a roll. There's so many ways to skin this cat with Raise the Cane. So many jokes. I'm just gonna leave that to Chalky, and say this horse has no shot. Chalky.
No shot.
I thought you were gonna throw out a Bruce Springsteen reference. That's why. I
Oh, no. What's not
was,
worth it?
Jimmy D.
One turn horse, 2-turn race, no shot.
Jason.
No shot to win, but he paired fours, maybe to board. I don't know. Might
You
be.
have 17 horses hitting the board.
I do. It's the Kentucky Derby.
Uh,
3-year-olds improve.
all right, let's go to Dermis Satagatakade. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Derma Sotagake.
Okay. Jason, what do you think on
Yeah. Well, we finally
Derma.
have come to the horse I am picking to win the race. He's going to be my A. I think he might be the fastest horse. He's going to have a forward trip. I don't think he needs the lead. I think he could sit off. Problem is, UA Derby has had an awful history in this race. So, but is this Japan's year? I don't think these horses are anything special. Any horse that we brought up so far, there's not a whale horse in there. It might be Japan's year. I just, they win a lot of big races now. I don't know what they're doing. I'm not accusing them of anything, but they're winning a lot of big races, and I'm going to pick him to win.
Jimmy D?
Jace, my top horse is Dermis Sadakaki. Now, this is the same situation. The UA Derby is 0 for 18. The 17 post is 0 forever
Yep.
in the Derby. But this horse is special. They're sending him over with big hopes. And this horse ran a huge race in the UA Derby. He controlled the pace, and it was fast. And he continued to run, and it was fast. And he galloped out, and it was fast. This horse could conceivably, if he wins this race, be a Triple Crown type of horse. Japan has caught up, fellas. First they bought that Sunday Silence, and then they bought everybody else. This is a Mind Your Biscuits. Mind Your Biscuits was a solid horse in America. Lemire comes over to ride this horse. He's a fabulous jockey. He's not a Japanese jockey, I don't think. But, this horse has everything going for him right now. I really think he's won that Saudi Cup. and the Dubai World Cup. I mean, these are big races. Um, this horse is special. I really think this horse could win the Kentucky Derby and break that snide for the Japanese people.
Well, one thing I'll throw in that I forgot to mention is, you know how the Japanese are not really braggadocious. Apparently this trainer said we're winning the Derby, and that's not their custom. So they're pretty confident that this horse is going to win the Derby.
Yeah,
This was the same trainer, Jason, as March Lorraine, and you remember that horse just stole the
Yeah,
Breeders' Cup.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and this jockey, I will say, did ride another one of the that monster turf Japanese horse they had on that same day.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
forget the name, but like looked like the best turf horse in the country, in
Yeah.
the world right now too.
Love
And that was,
something.
Yeah,
The Love Horse.
I don't
I
remember.
can't.
Won
I
the,
honestly,
won the.
it was the same day. If you said it,
It was
I
a
don't
Breeders' Cup.
even-
It was a Breeders' Cup day. Yeah, it was like.
No,
I thought it
no,
was-
no. The same day as.
Oh! I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. On the
Yeah,
UAE day. Okay.
Yeah. Coming off a layoff, I forget, but like just exploded. And that was the same jockey. So maybe not a Japanese jockey, but must run for the outfit. Um, I mean, I don't know if I have a top pick in the Derby. To be honest, I'm kind of a little bit spready with the logical choices, I should say. This is one of them for sure. I mean, how can it not be one of them? Um, the only thing I'll say is with the scratch of Practical Move, does the post get moved around, right?
I was going to mention that he's actually breaking from 16, not 17.
Right, they come in.
So yeah, 17 in number, but post 16. So take that was probably an anomaly anyway. Just 17. It's not like
Well,
Yeah,
somebody actually
they've only
won
run
from
20 for some.
17. Someone won from the 17th post. They just weren't number 17.
Number 17.
And I forget who
That's
it was.
possible, Jace. That's
Yeah.
possible.
But
So-
number 17 is one.
yeah, I think that's just more by coincidence.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, how could you not? The Japanese, they had a what looked like a mid-level horse run second to Practical Move who's on the AE list, I believe, who ran in the Santa Anita Derby, and that was like their bottom tier of Japanese horses. I mean, we talked about the Japanese horses on Breeders' Cup Day. We saw them on, obviously they dominated on UAE Day. They're just their horses look fabulous right now. Have to use the horse, definitely an A. Whether you want to say top pick, not whatever, an A. The horse is hell of a chance. Chalky.
I mean, you guys hit on most of the relevant points. The Japanese are winning races all over the world. They're gearing up for these now. That being said, I don't have him in anything. I think he'll be compromised by the pace, and they're going to have to win it before I start putting my own money on these horses. So he's a no-go.
Interesting. All right. All right. We could probably breeze through these last few quickly. 18 Rocket Ken, Jimmy D. It's a Billy Mott horse.
Rocket can't.
Damon, I should have went first because Jimmy D used my line. Rocket can't. Jason,
Yeah, I'm not using them.
Chalky.
He needs a rocket to hit the board, and he won't have it.
All right. Let's move on. 19 will not be running. So does that bring the other Japanese horse, or they
It
didn't ship
does.
that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so wow. So the horse that I was talking about. So we got the number 20, which is a Japanese horse.
Continuar.
Continuar.
Chalky.
Nope.
Jimmy D.
I don't think so. He's the leading trainer in Japan, but unless he's speeding this horse something that I don't know, I can't see it.
Jason.
Yeah, they're basically saying this horse does not look good at all in the morning. So I'm not using them.
All right, and we'll move on to the 21 horse, Dow Roman Cyclone Mischief.
Can
Jimmy
I
D.
go? Can I? Oh, I was
Oh.
gonna go.
Oh, I thought you were bad mouthing the horse.
I
I
don't
thought
like
you did go.
them.
Right.
I
I mean,
don't want them.
Jimmy D.
Psycho Mischief. Anytime the Dale Romans, gives you a horse and he gets on his high mount about the horse, you can bet it stinks. He's the happiest son of a bitch in the world to just get into this race. It'll give him more clients. It'll give him more feed money for himself. I'm talking about, not the horses. But there's and God bless him. Let him run. He's good for the game, Dale Romans. But this horse has absolutely no shot.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think was it Bovada, some website I saw you can make a side bet. Who will consume more metric tons of feed this weekend? Will it be the horses running on Saturday, or is it Dow Romans? So I think Romans was minus 185 when I last looked.
You should be.
Chalky. Oh, yeah, horse has no chance. Chalky.
Yeah, I think it's great for most of the horses we like because it's more pace, but no.
Jason.
I already said no.
Oh,
You say no again?
okay. I can't keep track of all the notes. He
Okay.
can hit the board though, right?
No, he cannot.
Okay.
No.
Then so now we're up to 22. So at least we will touch, and I'm even going to touch on the 23. God forbid the horse.
Might
gets
as
sick.
well.
The 22 horse Mandarin Hero.
That's true.
Another Jason.
I think this horse can hit the board. I'm not going to pick him to win from out there, but who knows? He could win. I don't know. I mean, but I'm going to use him for second and third for sure.
Chalky.
I agree that I'll have him at least probably in the bottom of a try. I don't think he can win, but he's run in America before and almost won a Grade 1, so I think he could get into the try.
Yeah, I mean, terrible post, but like these horses are tough to really gauge. Yeah, not going to win, but definitely, who knows? Can hit the board for sure. Jimmy D.
Not hitting the board. Japan was probably a 200-1 underdog in the war. This horse should be a 201 underdog in the race.
All right, and we'll just say King Russell, the 23. God forbid he gets in and wins. We could say on the podcast we talked about him. He has
He's a
no
proud
chance.
citizen horse, so I don't know. They like Churchill Downs. He's not winning.
No shot, right? All right, so that brings us to our ticket construction here, which could be not the easiest to construct. I think we have a single, which is race.
By the way,
race-
we're
Yes.
pretty much up to War and Peace time as far as the or Gandhi. What was the long?
Yeah.
Nah,
pretty
War and
much
Peace is
at
a
Gandhi.
novel. Nah.
Going with the win.
Yeah,
let's-
so it
let's-
is the
let's try
Derby
to
show.
move it.
We
Yeah.
knew it was going to be
That's
a
true,
longer
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
But we have a single race 10 in the 7. So we got to figure out what you guys want to do in the first leg, which was the Spackler race. For me, it's I'm good with 1, 4, and 11. I don't know what the rest of the consensus is.
I just want to put 1 and 11 in for myself, so I would be fine with throwing the 4 in.
Chalky.
The 11's in, I'm good.
Yep, that's fine.
So 1, 4, 11, and then we got the 7 is race 10 in Cody's Wish.
Yep.
I was 5, 7, 8 in race 11. Chalky was 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 7. Jesus Christ, you used every horse.
Maybe we should.
I didn't really use the 7, but I figured the 7 was getting used because everybody else had him.
I think we should go all in this race because, like, even in the Derby, we pretty much all agreed. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
all
not
right.
really a horse that one of us said, "Oh, I hate."
So how many horses are in that race?
10.
All right. So we're at 30 on a dollar ticket. We're at $30. So each horse in the Derby is going to cost us $30 on a dollar, $15 on a 50-cent. So we'll give a 50 cent ticket out. So $15 per horse on the
Right.
Derby.
Yep.
I mean, obviously I guess the only argument would be
2 fills,
are we
probably.
2 fills? Are we using 2 fills?
I mean, I'd like to, but if you guys are against,
Well, let's say it's 2 fills, the 3, Tapatrice, the 5, I guess Skinner.
yeah,
right?
I'd like to use Skinner.
Skinner, the 9.
17.
Well,
Definitely
14,
Durham, 14 Angel,
15, and 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 6 and 15.
and 90.
90.
So that's a $90. I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I
right?
think it's a legit
Yep.
ticket. Yeah.
So that's a $90 ticket. So I'll read it out. We're 1, 4, 11. The 4 was kind of our B. So if you want to say A's 1, 11 are the A's there. We're 7, Cody's Wish. The race 11, the third leg, that's a leg. Obviously, we gave out horses, so anybody's free to cut there. So you could definitely reduce the ticket. And then we're 3, 5, 9, 14, 15, 17, which is 50 cent, $90. Quickly to end the show, top pick in the Derby, Jason.
17, Derma Sotogaki.
Chalky.
Angel of Empire, 14.
Jimmy D.
Wow. Derma Sotogaki.
And I'll be the one using the chalk. I'll go with Fort as my top pick in the Derby. That was marathon episode 53 of Broad Street Hustle. The Kentucky Derby show. We will be back next week to discuss what happened in the Derby and how our picks did. Hopefully gave out a pick for that was a winner. Good night. Have a great
Happy Derby. Happy Derby.
Happy Derby
Good
week.
luck,
Yeah,
everybody. Be
May
well.
the fourth be with you.